This is Jody Tran with Chapter 2, Part 4 of Principles of Accounting. The accounting process is a process that we will use time and time again in this course. All accountants use this same process. It starts with source documents, such as checks or invoices. These source documents signify a certain transaction that has taken place. That transaction needs to be written up as a journal entry into the general journal. There are other journals that we'll talk about, but right now we're just working with the general journal. Every journal entry must have a debit and a credit. When we have completed our journal entries, we need to post those entries into our ledger accounts. The journal entries identify the changes that we want to make into accounts, but those changes are not made until we post them to the ledger. Once our ledger is complete, we can create a trial balance to determine that our accounts are in balance. From the trial balance, we extract information to create a balance sheet and different information to create an income statement. Here we'll take a closer look at the general journal and the general ledger. In the general journal, we have one journal entry written up. This journal entry is to adjust the accounts of the prepaid rent account and the cash account because we have paid for rent in advance. Although these are the changes that we want to see in our accounts, the changes are not made until we have posted these amounts to the general ledger. You can see an example of an account for cash, a 4-column format general ledger. You need to be calculating a running total in each one of your general ledger accounts. For all of the accounts that have a normal debit balance, such as all the assets and the owner's withdrawals and the expenses, they will all generally stay in the debit column. You shouldn't have any balances on the credit side for accounts that have a normal debit balance. The same thing is true of the normal credit balance accounts, such as the liabilities and the capital account or the revenue account. These all have a normal credit balance, and in your 4-column format ledger, you will never stray away from having your balance in the credit side. Here's an example trial balance that shows the normal balance for each one of the account categories. As you can see, the first 3 account categories are the same categories that we have in our accounting equation: assets, liabilities, and equity. So here equity is more like the capital account, and within equity we also have the 3 account categories that follow. We also have drawings, that is like owner's withdrawals, and we have revenues and expenses. So notice the normal account balances for all of these different account categories. The format of the trial balance must include all of these account categories in this order. You also need to organize a few of the account categories within them. So for example, there are multiple asset accounts. All of the asset accounts must be organized by liquidity. That is, we want the more liquid assets at the top of the asset list and the less liquid accounts at the bottom of the asset list. Still, all the assets are listed first. Our most liquid asset is cash, so it always comes first. Next, our most liquid is probably accounts receivable, and then inventory. After that, we'll have office supplies and equipment, and then finally land is usually listed as one of our last and less liquid assets. The liabilities are listed with the accounts payable account first. That is usually the account that we are most interested in, so we always list that one first. The equity account is going to have the normal balance first, as you can see here. So your capital account is going to come before your withdrawals account. Finally, your revenues accounts, if you have more than one revenue, you will list them in order of size. So you'll have your largest revenues listed first. The same thing with expenses. You will be listing your largest expenses first, leading down to the smallest expense balance at the end. Here's a familiar way of looking at it with the expanded accounting equation. Again, I recommend that you print this out and use it when you're doing your homework or bring it to class. Remember these tips if your trial balance doesn't balance. First of all, if you are just off a certain amount, let's say you're off $500, take a look at all of your accounts to see if you've just missed one of the $500 balances. If that's not the case, then I would still look at all of your accounts to make sure that each one is listed on your trial balance. Second, check and see how much you are off and whether that difference is divisible by 2. If it is, it could be that you've recorded a debit as a credit or vice versa. And then finally, if the error is divisible by 9, it could be that you've had a transposition error. That means that you've transposed the numbers and maybe recorded 330 as 303.